Hey there team, we're back again with another Steam Next Fest video. Steam Next Fest is a little festival of smaller indie games that have their demos showcased on Steam over the course of a week. I tried out around 15 games that seemed interesting to me, plus a few developers reached out to have me try their games too, and that's always cool and great to see. Anyway, let's just get this video going and get started with number 1. Souldiers. Soldiers, but with extra soul in the middle. Clearly, we're starting this video off with a banger. Souldiers is a great pixel graphics Metroidvania. You got some seriously good combat in this game and a lot of fun exploration. Not gonna lie, I didn't really care for the story or any of the characters, but the gameplay of Souldiers was surprisingly fun. You got special moves, rolling, air attacks, and the animations and all this stuff looks great. You get a few items, you fight a few different types of enemies, and they have a little bit of side quests and map progression. I really like Metroidvanias, and I thought this game looked good and played well. Really enjoyed this. Little Orpheus is a surprisingly good time. No shade, but I want to say the graphics here look like they're from one of the first releases on the Xbox Live Arcade. The colors used in the animations are incredibly well done though, and the voice acting here is just so good. Like, the deliveries on some of these lines are actually so well done that I may or may not have LOL'd IRL, as the kids say. This game is an adventure puzzle platformer, and nothing here is mechanically challenging, but the adventure of going through the world was pretty fun, and we don't really see this type of setting in games. It feels like a pretty fresh game, and I liked it a lot. Blue is probably the most indie looking and indie feeling game on the list. It definitely needs a lot of work. So Blue is an action platformer, but hear me out, there is some serious potential with these devs. 1, the level layouts of the game are actually pretty good. There's a real solid level design in this game, especially when you get to the castle section. And 2, the combat is floaty, but it's actually pretty fun. There are these directional attacks that change the start of combos, and the bonus attacks like magic and the ice bow. I mean, once it starts going, it starts going. It was really enjoyable. I will say, visually, it looks rough, and the platforming isn't great, but hey, they got something here. Like, they're onto something with Blue. Far Changing Tides is a great concept and also a great game, at least from what I got to play in the demo. You play as this little adventurer and you operate and manage this big boat and guide it through different obstacles, solving different problems. The music is out of this world good, and the visuals are also pretty solid. The actual gameplay is relatively mellow, and the big thing here is just sailing the ship and moving forward down the water. You get to navigate a few things and fix a few problems, and overall it's a pretty chill time. Good demo. Warstride Challenges is pretty interesting. It's a first-person shooter, but it's more like a first-person platformer also, kind of. The idea of the game here is that there are these fast-paced levels you need to rush through via hopping, sliding, and gunslinging in order to complete these sections as fast as possible. And when I say gunslinging, I mean gunslinging. You are supposed to be one-tapping these monsters. The game really feeds the speedrunning section of my brain where I just want to retry and retry over and over again to get the best score I can get. And it's addicting. I will also say that you get a full real level unlocked after you complete the tutorial mission, and experiencing that full 30 to 40 second level, I gotta say that it shows a lot of promise of what this game has to offer. It's fast, fluid, and fun. Everything you want from a slip and slide, and a game like this. Ghostlore is a pixelated Diablo 2. I personally found this game to be surprisingly enjoyable. Like, it's got some creative abilities, personally, a big fan of the were-tiger, and I think the mechanics are well implemented. I do think the color scheme is a bit off, a little too bright or high in contrast or something. So it was a little difficult for me at times to tell what was going on or just seeing stuff clearly. But you know, it's an isometric ARPG, it plays like one, it acts like one, and it seemed pretty solid. Not much else to say about it. Scathe is heavily influenced by Doom 2016, from its music to its just general gameplay loop. It took me a bit to get the hang of this game specifically, since it has a very specific way it wants you to play. I think the graphics and gunplay are pretty solid, but I also have some issues. One is there's blood splatter effects, which are caused by either taking damage, but also by killing enemies. Sometimes they can explode and get on your visor. And it can be difficult to tell where you're being attacked from, since the common visual indicator isn't that helpful. Sometimes blood just might be splattered on you and that's not the direction you're taking damage from, so it gets really confusing. The second thing is that while Doom 2016 has ways to generate HP back with melee kills and stuff like that, Scathe doesn't. The only way you can get HP back, that I could tell at least, was by picking up health kits hidden around the map. And honestly, I just don't think the close quarters chaotic arena shooting of Scathe flows as well with then having to run away looking for healing items as generating HP through kills like Doom 2016 does. Overall, the demo wasn't bad, but it felt like I wasn't spending enough time fighting as much as I was spending time looking to restore my HP. So Hive Defender was one of the games a developer sent me to look at. And honestly, I didn't really like this game at first. For one, the graphics are graphics only a developer could love. But mainly, the gameplay was really frustrating to me. You control these little aliens in this RTS style, and you gotta protect your alien hives from the human invaders. And the big issue I was having with the game was that I was just being too aggressive. Your aliens are kind of like Zerglings. They die a little too quickly, and the human enemies are a little too strong. But once I stopped treating the game like a Zerg versus Terran matchup and started thinking of the game more as a tower defense, it got a lot better for me. You gotta micro these 4 different squads of aliens, and if we're microing, we're speaking my language. You have these destructible environments, damaging doodads, and different enemy types. You can also upgrade your aliens with different perks and abilities, which change how you use each squad, growing them up from basic auto attackers to maybe something a little bit more. Honestly, I warmed up to Hive Defenders a lot since I started being more defensive and less aggro. I will say that while the graphic designs no longer bother me, it can get pretty hard to tell where your units are at times because of just the size of the game. The actual size and scale of these units. All in all though, the randomized map designs combined with the unit ability customization and that it's a micro-focused RTS, this game is surprisingly fun. I've been grinding it a bit actually. Oh wow, is that a turn-based strategy RPG I see? Who saw one of these showing up on the list? Yes, I happen to like games like Ignited Steel, and what do you know, I liked Ignited Steel. You get a few mechs that you can customize with different weapons, abilities, and cores. And this game has a new little interesting mechanic. It's like a heat function, which generates heat whenever you take an action or are damaged. And there are pros and cons to having too much heat. I like that little addition, because it makes bum rushing enemies a lot less viable of a strategy. The gameplay beyond the heat system and the customization is relatively boilerplate strategy RPG stuff. I think if you like these kind of games, you should try out Ignited Steel. It seems to be on par with any other game in its genre. Heroes Hour is a weird game. You move around an overworld collecting resources, managing a castle, and building an army. You can go and fight other groups of enemies, and you know what this reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the King's Bounty series of games. You know, you can create new units and have them fight other armies. It's got like this weird auto battle kind of strategy setup. I don't know, it's a little weird. Whatever Heroes Hour is doing, it just wasn't clicking for me. I think the aesthetics are nice, the graphics and music are fine, but the gameplay just wasn't something I was particularly interested in. It just didn't really connect with me, which is unfortunate, but I think it's worth giving a shot if it seems interesting to you. Full disclosure, I knew I was not going to like The Wandering Village before I even played it. But I'm always down to give stuff a try, and yeah, I don't like city sim games. Even if they look this good and are this creative with giant monsters and stuff. From the 30 minutes I played of it, it seemed pretty standard in that you collect resources and build and manage a village that will grow to become an even greater town. You also have this big giant creature that your village is riding on. and you can interact with it to some degree. I think the visuals are really, really good. I thought maybe this would be the make a village sim that would get me hooked and, interested in it, but sadly the Wandering Village just wasn't the one. I hear great things about this game from the folks who play it though, so if it seems interesting to you and you like town management stuff, I would recommend looking into it. It's just not for me. Mazem is another game that a developer reached out to me about. It's got graphics that look like they're from a phone game from 2011, but this is a puzzle game, and the puzzles matter a little bit more than the graphics do, and the overall concept of the game and the puzzles of the game are actually really well done. You basically have to collect items in a level, kind of like Captain Toad, but you can place different sections of terrain in which end up shifting what the layout of the level looks like. There's some solid brain teasers here, and the puzzles don't drag on and actually are really efficiently paced. I can live with the graphics that I don't like personally, but this gameplay is actually super fun and definitely worth checking out. I kept saying while I was recording, I'm only going to do one more puzzle and then I'll go to bed, and then I accidentally did 30 puzzles. Okay, Phantom Breaker Omnia isn't that cringe.
Thanks for letting me train with you.
Okay, it's pretty cringe, but it's also fun. It's an anime fighting game that has a few different ideas going for it. Notably, there don't appear to be any inputs, like no quarter circle turns or dragon punches. Moves seem to be directionally influenced, like forward heavy or back special. Once you sort of figure that out, or read the eye-glossing instructions section, the game becomes fairly fun. I liked it, but I also like anime fighting games. And the dialogue and the characters are, well, they're pretty whack, but the gameplay is solid enough. And to be fair, the gameplay is really all that matters. You get to pick between one of 3 modes per character: quick, normal, or heavy. And each mode has some different properties, like your HP increases, or you get new command normals. But quick mode is so good. I'm not a fighting game expert, but this mode gives you 3 different auto combo routes, plus your meter fills up faster, so I can't imagine ever picking anything that wasn't quick mode. This game is fun, and I would recommend you try out the demo. Witch in the Council is a card battler game thing. It's Slay the Spire. It's Slay the Spire, but with cutesy graphics. The game has a rough translation. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not helped by the story itself being pretty confusing. Either way, the only thing that matters to me in this game is the gameplay, and the card gameplay is actually relatively engaging. Each character has their own unique gimmick, like the witch has cards that get more powerful after others are used in the same turn, kind of like combo cards from Hearthstone. The dog girl, or whatever she is, can give shields and then do damage equal to her armor of shields. It's fun. I also like the art style. The Witch in the Council has some serious potential, and you get a lot out of the demo, to be honest. If you like games like Slay the Spire or Monster Train or whatever, I think you should give The Witch in the Council a serious look. And finally, we have Symphony of War. And this game is a combination of Advanced Wars and Fire Emblem. Or maybe it's just Fire Emblem. I don't know. Symphony Wars was surprisingly good. I wish the demo had more than one mission so I could see how items and unit management go together, but on a strictly gameplay basis, it's fun. It's like your units are actually small teams with leaders that have subunits, and those are a combination of a bunch of different classes. Healers, mages, bowmen, cavalry, dragons, whatever. And I like that. And then you have this giant lady, and hey, I like her too. The graphics look pretty good, the music is also pretty solid, and I'm a sucker for strategy RPGs, and this game is one that has a slightly different approach than the usual style I'm used to seeing. Overall, pretty good time, and something I would highly recommend. Okay, I'm in the middle of a super busy week. Really wish Next Fest happened next week, because then this would have been out a lot sooner with more games covered. I only played around 20 games this time around and only included 15 for the video. Every time I make one of these videos, another dev or two asks me to look at their game for the next Fest, and I'm always down to check out an indie game if I got the time. So, if you are working on a game and you just want me to check it out, feel free to email me. I would be happy to do so. And listen, if you saw any game here that interested you, I got links to all of them down below in the description. And if you have any demos or indie games you'd recommend to me or that you would want other people to check out, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Yeah, just promote that shit. Where else are you gonna do it? Alrighty, stupid joke ramble over. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take it easy. Enjoy Next Fest. I'm out.